Meeting to order. This is a work session of the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Seaside Park, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, held on Thursday, June 22nd, 2023, advertised for 7 p.m. And we're only a minute late.
It's in someone's checklist.
Pursuant to the provisions of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting was properly provided by transmitting the notice of the meeting for publication in the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger on January 4th, 2023. Notice of this meeting of the governing body has also been posted in the corridor of the municipal building and in the office of the municipal clerk. Roll call.
Councilmember Anfield?
Present.
Councilmember Condos?
Yes.
Councilmember Kraft?
Here.
Councilmember Dr. McHugh?
He should be here momentarily. We had many meetings today.
Councilmember Wilk?
Here.
Council President Michael?
Here.
Mayor Peterson?
Here.
Thank you.
The first item is for informational purposes, and it entails the pending application for the CDBG grant, and the specific application for this year for funding was the J Street building, and for want of a better term, for many years it's been called the Boy Scout building, as they were one of the many groups that have met there over the years. And the sentiment previously expressed by the governing body was to implement the appropriate upgrades at that building to make it fully accessible, legitimate for handicap accessibility, and otherwise for use as a community center, and to make it as for multiple uses, whatever uses that might come about. And there are groups in the community that wanted to meet there, have coffee, get together, cars, what have you. And we had authorized our engineer to apply for a CDBG grant for this year, and they have done that. That application is pending, and there was inquiry from Mr. Tierney, Mike Tierney, and I had written him back, and I know he's been in contact with many of us in the borough family, and probably a number of us, and I had written him back, and I believe that's the sentiment of the governing body. And we are not ever guaranteed that we will get an award of a CDBG application, but we've been very successful over the years. And you're not, even if you are given such an award, you're not guaranteed what specific amount, and that's factored in with all of the other towns that might apply for that funding as well. But an average amount that we had gotten previously was around $35,000. Those monies come and flow through the county from the HUD program. They're federal monies, and the county, and I'm familiar with this with a number of towns as well as ours, they've reached out to the HUD people. They still do not have finality from the federal government as to the amount of money. Then the county will be able to make their determination of the award, and that may occur as shortly after July 1 is what we're told. So I just wanted everyone, this is really on for informational purposes, but and discussion. I mean, hopefully we get the money, hopefully we even get more money.
Every 2 years.
Right. I mean, whatever money we get, I think certainly this is a worthwhile project. But my preference, I don't know, that's why I wanted to hear from everyone else. I think we all were on the same page. The overall upgrades that we contemplate, some can be effectuated in-house. Eric said time permitting, labor, how many people he's got. And some we will need a design plan that the engineers input on the handicap space outside in particular. And then the bathroom needs to have the walls put out with wallboard, with sheetrock pushed out a little bit so it's accessible, wheelchair accessible. And then one of those units, many here at the table know better than me, the ones you put on the ceiling for air conditioning, those kinds. They seem to be better. And it's really, it's not, it's in pretty good condition, as we all know, that building already, and it could be made ready pretty rapidly. So I don't know everybody's thought. I think we should do it. depending whether we get the money or not.
It's only 150 years old, right? Whatever the heck.
I don't know.
It's old, right?
Is it
It's older than a town.
It's an old.
It's been around. So I don't know everybody else's thoughts. What was our, just a rough estimate? Was 60 to 80?
It was up there somewhere, I want to say a little
I
over
mean-
that, but
Mayor,
That
would we
covered.
really utilize a local architect if he volunteered his services?
I think the quicker the better. That's my
So,
sentiment.
We have an architect in mind, but we'd like to ask to move it along.
And I think you met him.
Whatever.
You met the architect. I think Brian would be more than happy to do it for us.
The one that lives in Seaside Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Which one? Brian,
He's more than an architect.
huh?
He's more than an
Can't think of his
architect.
last name either.
Oh, come on, Tracy, Brian Tracy. He lives on the bay.
He designs hospital rooms and hospitals. That's his area of expertise.
Hospital rooms?
Yeah, emergency rooms.
He's pretty well, he's pretty well, you met him, John.
Yeah.
You met him,
I have met him.
Yeah, he's
I didn't know
he's
that.
on our environmental committee.
We'd like to move it along.
Yeah.
We know what we need basically is the ADA ramp, the
Right.
door,
pad,
ADA bathroom,
The ramp.
and then the parking pad outside.
The pad, yeah, the pad outside may or may not, depends on, I
Doesn't
don't know
cost
if
us
it needs a
anything, so-
survey, I don't know.
Are you guys volunteering him?
Yeah. sounds like it.
We would ask him.
I'm gonna approach him tomorrow night. I'm gonna
And
approach
of
him
course,
tomorrow night.
the air conditioning, he's very,
And I think he'd be more than happy to do it.
well, we can ask him, if he's willing to do it, he's willing to do
You
it.
know the answer.
So assuming, if he says yes, everybody's fine, I don't,
We're
if
not
he says
making,
no, is the engineer in
Yeah,
charge
we have
to
to-
move forward?
yeah, I would do
And
that as a
and input
secondary.
from
goal.
Eric, what he
Of course.
Yeah.
feels he can get done realistically.
yeah, we're in
talked to him
favor, I think
already
regardless of the
about
grant, being final, we were planning to proceed anyway, so I think we should go right ahead
I
and
think we
continue
should
forward, yeah.
get everything in motion.
Yeah. it-
Yes, I agree.
it's the- Yes, I agree, whatever.
Mhm.
we need
All right, I'll
do this
talk to him
one.
tomorrow night.
Very good.
So complete green light, right?
You got
Yeah,
your-
Green
information,
light.
Green To light. go.
Green light.
I'm on it.
Anything else on that point then?
Excuse me, the architect have any-
The next one is discussion of pervious pavers with respect to calculation of total lot coverage. And this
Yeah, Mayor,
came,
yeah, this came, it was a kind of a joint meeting between zoning officer, the chairman of the planning board, and myself. There was a fairly new product put on the market, which is pervious pavers, and right now, they're not included in the lot coverage. So what we'd like to propose is that it would be counted for 50%. So for 100 square feet of that particular paver, we would count 50 square feet into the calculation.
Right now, it's 40.
No,
It's nothing.
Zero.
Nothing right now? Okay.
nothing right now. So they're not being counted into the calculation. The problem is over time, they get more, porous because the sediment that gets into the paver and
Get
then
less porous.
Less poor.
Less porous.
Okay, they
less porous, they get clogged up,
Yeah.
so that they're no longer effective.
then.
So what do we have?
Zero.
What's it, 35%, 30%, 35%?
It's 60%.
Impervious.
No, it's
No.
60%
60%
control.
coverage of non-pervious is what's allowed. After that, it's gotta be completely
60% coverage.
lock
Coverage.
coverage, building and all.
That's everything.
So 40% impervious has got to be.
Correct, for the lot.
And you're saying that this would count for what?
We would count it at half then right now.
But if it
Half
clogs
the
up, I mean,
square, half the square footage
Half
that
the
it
square
would,
foot.
if it took up so much square foot, it would count as half of the square footage.
Okay.
As
So if
opposed
you
to,
had, if you took up 50,
Well, that's only a recommendation. I mean, if you want to count it the same as a paver, that's why we're discussing it. That was the other option, just to count it the same as a regular paver.
I'm just trying to
Is there an
understand.
actual
I don't think-
definition of pervious paver?
It is. We have the specs on them, spec sheet. It's like 60/40. So
If they're maintained.
if they're maintained, that's what I keep saying, if they're maintained. Problem here with sand and sediment and leaves and debris, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know what the lifespan of it, and then it would become 100% impervious. We're looking for the future.
I believe, what do you recommend?
We went back and forth, that's why we were brought it here. I don't know if you want to have it put to the planning board.
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't
you
know.
said-
Discussion, I don't know.
I think
so.
one of the things that we talked about when we discussed this was that when they put it down, they'd have to show the manufacturer documents, so you know that what they're putting down truly is that
Right.
product. So you're essentially giving them the courtesy for making the investment in something that in theory is better for the ground, right? For us having the wood. And so count half of it rather than all of it. Is one way to look at it. Well, today, they're not counting any of it. But we know that over time, it's not.
Impervious right now, so they're not counting it at all toward the lot
Yeah.
coverage.
Correct, that's how they're getting around the 60%
What they're really
lot
want.
coverage. If they're over 60%, they're using this, because they're saying, well, let's count just as gravel.
All right, so we have
That's the
a
problem.
50% coverage right now, and we want to, then that would allow us up to.
No, it's not changing the
20%.
60, right?
No, follow me.
60 is.
No,
60 is the max, so if you covered 50% right now, that would allow you to add another 20% technically.
You're correct.
Right.
You're correct.
Yeah. But eventually, it's all going to be impervious anyway, so
That's our take on it.
you're going to end up with 70% lot coverage anyway.
Right.
It's a strange kind of, I don't know, for the few that I've seen, it's got like a little bit of a pitch and it's kind of designed a certain way, so it's really more for like a driveway or a path. That's my impression. I don't know if you've seen it. So if you're doing a patio area or someplace that you want to have a flat surface for chairs and tables, it's not the right product for that.
I mean, the ones I've seen, they don't look like they're really super
Impervious?
built for long-term use,
Right.
you know? They seem like they're pretty flimsy, I mean, as far as regular blocks would go.
It was,
Correct.
we had a problem.
I don't understand. Well, it's the zoning
Yeah,
board,
please.
but the definition right now, under our zoning ordinance for impervious material, specifically says, any man-made material, including but not limited to bituminous concrete, Portland cement concrete, asphaltic metal or wood roofing, sheet plastic, concrete paver blocks, and natural materials. So it says concrete paver blocks. I don't care if someone's labeling it pervious, whatever. Pavers are considered impervious materials under our current zoning
Are
ordinance.
they concrete?
They are.
So
I read that too. But
It
That's
is,
why
so
we're here.
I don't know
That's why
how
we're
it can be
discussing it.
interpreted, look, we're the governing body. We're not the planning board. So, I mean, we
So it's already-
can talk to Mr. Hawk, but I don't know how the planning board's interpreting anything that is a paver to be anything but impervious material under our current ordinance. But that's the zoning board's, that's the planning board's purview, not ours.
Especially something that clogs over time and ends up becoming
Impervious.
I
pervious.
mean, so we need a recommendation from, I guess, the planning
Thank you.
board. If they want to say, we want it to remain impervious, then we can always amend the ordinance as the governing body and say, pavers, whether defined as pervious or impervious, are going to be impervious. If you want to get
Well,
more
that was my,
definition.
to be honest with you, that was my first take on it, is that we would just count it just like a regular
But
paver.
right now, it should be.
Right.
I don't
you
care
don't-
if it's labeled
You don't have to
impervious.
change anything.
Yeah, right now, I would say, how does that,
Wow.
how do you define
Pretty clear.
that?
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not the zoning officer.
There's gonna have to be a direct instruction, because what's happened in the last year, let's say, is for folks who are exceeding, they went ahead and changed the product to put that in, and they have not been calculating that at all. So that
Well,
needs to
That's
be,
the zoning officer.
That's
that's what I'm saying,
zoning.
and they need to be directed accordingly, because
Well,
that's
we can't
currently
direct
not
the zoning
being.
officer what to do, but
I'm just-
if it
I'm-
needs clarification,
Well,
then it
that's,
needs
that's
clarification.
kind of my point, is
Yeah,
that it's
that's-
being done now.
Well, the
because
problem
it's
is
a
they're bringing a
loophole.
spec sheet in saying no, blah, blah, blah.
This says
Because-
concrete paver, period.
I agree with you.
Are you guys-
That's what I said originally. I said
Right.
it should just be counted as a paver.
Yes.
Are you going to
Yeah, we said
recommend,
no.
are they recommending anything to us, the planning board?
No, there's nothing under the planning board at this point. This was between the chairman, myself, and because of a particular piece of property that was done in the town. The zoning officer brought it to our attention and maybe we should look at this.
Well, it says the use of pervious geotextile fabrics that permit the absorption and percolation of water, but there's no calculation on that. It just says that.
So is
So
that
they're
implying
allowed?
that they slip between the cracks,
I
that
don't
kind
know.
of material?
No, it says geotextile fabrics that permit absorption.
That's exactly what.
That's allowed.
Well, concrete,
No, I'm saying, but that's
Yeah.
what has currently kind of been the.
yeah, but how does anything
Motivation.
concrete allow absorption and percolate? It doesn't.
No, I know, but I'm just saying
Well,
that's the
that's what they're-
view. That's been the
That's
view.
weed
That's
barrier,
what they're
that
saying.
definition is weed
Yeah,
barrier.
we.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we definitely send it back, and then let's make sure we,
You know,
I'm satisfied with that
definition.
answer.
And
I am
enforcement,
That's why I brought it here for everyone to
Is
see
it too
where.
late for that property in question?
Yeah, we can't rescind that. It's completed.
why did they get special permission to do it?
Sounds like.
No, because they brought the spec sheet in and it basically said that it's, that interpretation,
Somebody authorized it, somebody okayed it.
Chairman and myself brought it here for the reason is because of the interpretation of the spec sheet.
Are the manufacturers different? They give different spec sheets?
I assume they
Well, there's
do.
all kinds,
We
yeah.
had, we looked at it and
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
And the
they've
chairman
already,
is
they've already
an
installed
engineer.
it. Once it's installed, according to our counselor here, it doesn't matter once it's installed or not. I mean, there's no statute of limitations,
And if
correct,
we
Steve?
approved it, that's.
I don't know.
There's,
I don't know.
it depends on whether it's a reasonable interpretation or whether it's,
Blatant.
right, if there's some leeway that it's a reasonable interpretation, then there may be an issue of estoppel. But if it's clearly not permitted, like, for example, for some reason a permit was issued and it's in a setback, that clearly can be taken, there's no estoppel on
Mr.
that.
Chairman, I mean,
So, yeah, but let's not
Steve,
get
I
into
just wanted to
weeds.
say,
Yeah.
listen,
I don't like it.
I don't even think this piece of property is over the coverage, just that it wasn't calculated.
Mhm.
It wasn't that the property was all covered. I don't want you to think that it was all, it's violated.
And it's beyond its 60%.
I'm not saying that.
At the one on Ocean.
It was just the red flag because they brought the spec sheet in. And we said, we have another item we'd like to look at. I'm not going to tell you the property's in violation.
So should the board look at it, have
No.
that clause cleaned up in there? Doesn't matter what the specs say,
That was my original answer.
that would address any ambiguity, anything there, anybody has doubt.
When you look at the definition of pervious pavers, it talks about the rainwater passing around the paver. If you look at our definition, it's only impervious if it can go through the material.
Which is the way it should be.
Right, correct.
Okay, I'm satisfied. I believe it. It's got to be included, unless someone
And
challenges
if some other issues develop, we could,
it. We like to always be upfront.
yeah,
Questions?
no, absolutely. Anything else on that one from anyone in council? The next item is discussion of an ordinance amendment, and this is brought about by a mandate from the state of New Jersey, and that requires any and all properties that are used for rental units to provide proof of liability insurance for, and they're classified under the state's definition as businesses. References the landlord registration requirements effective January 1, 2023 by the state of New Jersey. It has the definitions of no less than $500,000 combined property damage, bodily injury, liability. So the ordinance, I could turn over to Marty, would be in compliance by the state statute.
Yeah, we need an ordinance for this, Steve. That's why.
It should probably go along with our rental registrations, and it should be on the form that you provide that liability insurance certificate. It's like a use of facilities.
That's correct.
So do an ordinance to copy the state statute.
Yes, please.
Anything else from anyone on that issue?
I'm sure.
The next is input from our attorney. It's general discussion, and it entails cell tower leases. And that came about, I believe there's at least one current lease agreement that would be set to expire. Is that upcoming in the fall?
Yes, I sent in the memo our business administrator, Karen Kroon, brought to my attention all the leases that are on the tower and the understanding that one may be coming to expire. So I did send a memo out to the mayor and council on June 21. It is marked attorney-client privilege, but if you want to discuss it, that's fine. The bottom line is, it appears to me there's at least one that will be expiring this summer, and another one that will be expiring November 30. So according to the case law, which is a case, a appellate division case in 1995, you cannot renew a lease unless there's renewal options in the lease itself. Once those renewal options in the lease expire, then the municipality, under our New Jersey public bid law, has to go out to bid for any antenna to go on the tower. And usually the people that have it there want to keep it there, so they're going to bid to keep their antenna there. Antennae. So we already got a notice from Judy Fairweather, who I'm very familiar with in other towns that I'm involved with, both as a borough attorney and as a land use attorney. And she's AT&T, I believe, Karen, right? She's with
Correct.
AT&T.
Yep.
And I actually spoke to her, and they very much want to keep their equipment. And I don't know if it means they need to modify any equipment or whatever, but, so they definitely are interested. And then there was one expiring, I think I found New Jersey Public Radio, looks like it might be expiring too. So we need to go out to public bid. Karen went wherever.
August 1st.
Yeah, well, I said August 1st because it's undated, the lease, and we don't know exactly when it started or when the first payment was. So it would look like it was sent out for signature in August, so that would be the earliest possible date. Well, I guess we haven't heard from New Jersey Public Radio. I recommend we write to them and say, what's your plan? But in the meantime, let them know we're going out to bid, and if they don't want to bid and they don't want their equipment there, they'll have to remove it, which would give us more space for somebody else to occupy. But at the end of the day, we have to go out to public bid. There is a bid spec that was prepared. I do recommend to go to the engineer for review. Karen already took the bull by the horns, I believe, and sent it to T&M, I believe, gave us some comments on it. I just would go over it with them, make sure it looks okay, and then we would need the mayor and council to approve the publishing of the bid. I did in my memo give you there is specific publication requirements. So 2 consecutive weeks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and they have to give us a lease plan to show exactly where their equipment is, and it is site plan exempt.
Is it just
Under the
one,
statute.
I'm sorry, is it just one that you would have to put out for?
One bid for everyone,
antennas?
yeah,
Okay.
yes. It would be a bid to go on our, and then I guess we would have potentially at least 2 spots opening up, the AT&T one and the New Jersey Public Radio.
Right.
And
Sprint's
Sprint already took
already.
one down. So
Right.
potentially, I think we may have 3 opportunities.
Yeah, we have room for 5.
Right.
Verizon is interested in
But they're in 04, they're not.
Yeah, they're March
They're another,
24.
yeah.
Well, Verizon would be which one?
March of 24.
Yeah, March of 24. They wouldn't hop on this one, I wouldn't think.
Counselor, who sets the time of the lease?
Contract.
Well, if you look at my memo, there's a draft for a public bid. I suggest everybody take a look at it. We don't want to act tonight on it. We have a little bit of time, but I probably would like it to be reviewed by the appropriate committee. Take a look at it, because there's recommendations on the lease amount. There's recommendations on whether you want to do 3 additional or 4 additional options for renew. How do you want to set the increase for the renewals? You know, prior leases have a percentage or a CPI, whichever is greater, and so on and so forth. So it takes some consideration and evaluation, maybe what other towns are getting for their leases, et cetera, because some of these were really low and some of them were okay. So now it's an opportunity for the borough to, have this done and get some real decent revenue from these companies that are very anxious to have their antennae placed on a municipal water tower, so they don't have to build one themselves. It's very advantageous to them, especially when you're exempt from site plan under the circumstances. So I did confer with Mr. Hawk on that, and he agreed with my analysis. But obviously, they have to give us a plan, and we have to approve it. It's not just, oh, you want it, knock yourself out. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that. Because some of them now have different kinds of cabinets. Some are smaller, some are bigger, that have to go on the ground. I mean, there's working parts.
They've been updating.
As it is to begin
all
with, right,
along-
which they're allowed under their current lease.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I'll tell you, these new 5G towers, which are very unpopular, part of that, we weren't sure at first whether they were going to keep these antennae or not, because we weren't sure they still needed it with this 5G.
With the
stuff.
nodes going on the poles.
I
Yeah.
think they
We'll
did
find out
this-
when we go out to bid.
Well, that's what I mean, so I wouldn't be too sure.
I think the way it works is that the nodes are basically transceivers, and they just hop it along to the bigger antenna, which then gets.
Would be on the tower?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then why would they need it? Because there's been no problem with,
Well, the cell phones would then be being picked up by the much quicker 5G nodes, and then it moves it along quicker to the main antenna, then moves out. That's my understanding.
I know, but it's, I'd be interested to see, I mean, these are all different timelines, these are all different companies, they're all different, agreements with different expiration dates. So, if it's to go out to bid, I mean, how many of these towers really are there out? How many people actually need these antennas?
Well, I'm
I
telling you
mean,
now, what you gotta call
I
AT&T
guess-
wants to keep their equipment, so
I
they
guess-
know they have to enter into a new lease. That's one already for sure.
Well, most of them were dated 2003, 2004.
Yeah, the 20-year.
Well, we have
And, 20 years? Well, the planning board meeting on Tuesday, Verizon, I believe, is coming in to explain the 5G nodes because of some pushback. And then we could find out what their need is for
Well,
the
yeah,
cell
their lease, I
tower.
think it's March 2024.
Yeah, but they're coming in to explain, and then we will
Maybe you can
find
ask
out
them then, you know,
what their
wanna
need
stay
is.
on the water tower?
Well, maybe you can ask them then, yeah, but we've had them come here and talk to us too.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't really fans of it,
No.
up and down the coast, so,
But there's no
they went ahead and
stopping
did it
it.
anyway.
No.
The FCC says you're gonna do it no
Yeah,
matter
the
what.
federal jurisdiction
Yeah.
is unfortunate from our perspective.
Preemptions.
Yeah.
But I mean, no pun intended, we've been bouncing this thing around for a long time, and I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, Counselor.
We have to go out to bid.
We have to. There's no alternative, so.
Correct.
We'll find out how many people bid on it.
Exactly.
So we redid the bid specs today with your suggestions incorporated. Sent it to the engineer for a second review.
Good, excellent.
And then, once I get it back, I'll push that to the Public Works Committee.
Yeah, sure.
Take a good look and,
And we'll come up with I don't know, how would you come up with a value, honestly?
It's in the bid specs. I can explain all that to
It
you.
went,
Yeah.
and you raised it appropriately, I
Yeah.
guess, if it's 2003, it's 20 years.
Well, it's been going up every year.
4%,
Yeah.
at a minimum,
Is that the normal years, 20 years, is that the?
It's
Is it normal?
5 years, and then
Maybe
there's
set
3
contract.
5-year renewal periods.
well, 4. If you notice, I saw a
Yeah,
conflict.
yeah,
in
so
there.
we
Yeah,
set it back to
yes.
3.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
some of them, most like the 3.
Mhm.
So it's a 20-year lease.
Plus, 5 plus 3.
Right, so it's a 20-year lease max.
I think Steve's suggestion is helpful, I think, to maybe look around and see what other towns,
Yeah.
leases, what they're yielding,
Yeah.
so we don't come in the ballpark.
Well, I mean, and we have the option, I see, to reject all
Yeah,
bids anyway.
always.
Mhm.
Always the option to reject all bids under the statute. Took the language right out of the statute.
And we don't have any, I mean, we don't have really a choice. It's a nice income
It's
for the
great
town.
passive income.
Yeah.
Yeah, great passive income, so we don't want to screw it up,
Okay. Any other council comments, so we'll...
Gotta quote that, Dan, don't want to screw it up.
Jimmy Olsen's in the house.
Just kidding,
That's
by the way.
legalese. That's something.
I see I raised your antenna.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Let's just keep going.
Next on the agenda, we have a request from the Public Works Supervisor to auction 2 out-of-service vehicles on municipal, and that's Resolution 2023-189. It's listed for consideration on the regular meeting agenda. And this is Eric's input. You see the 2 vehicles that are out of service, and he requests that they go up for auction.
Do you have to set like a minimum the way we've done with other things, or do they just go out and whatever? Like, is there a price you expect to get, Karen?
I don't know if, I'm guessing he'll set a reserve, I don't know what the reserve would be, but, yeah, so it won't go for $1. We'll set a reserve.
There's gonna be a reserve set, more like,
Yeah,
it won't
there
be a
should
dollar.
be, or-
Yes, Eric will probably handle that
Yeah.
based on
Okay.
value and usage or whatever.
Do we need to incorporate that in the resolution? I believe you do.
Sounds like
Do we?
Wendy's shaking her head, yes.
Hmm?
I've heard of her.
Yes?
189 is already on there.
It's already on, but it does not have
Minimum bid.
a minimum, that's what I'm
What's the
looking
suggestion?
Well, you think he's comes back if that gets it?
Oh,
I'm doing it right now.
You are? We'll see.
Yeah, but-
Aren't you?
You can put a minimum bid in
Hey, I don't.
there if you want to.
Can't you say minimum bid to be determined by DPW supervisor? No? Gotta need a hard amount?
I think we need to set a minimum bid if we're going to.
That's what I was wondering, is other things we've done, we've had to put a number,
No budge.
Usually, yeah.
right?
It's one of those from you guys? Tahoe, yeah.
Do we need to,
One's a, old F-150.
maybe not do it today then, to have an appropriate number? Hmm? Oh, I thought you said so. Oh,
Well, we'll keep it's tentatively on, but we'll see if Eric
Yeah, maybe go from there.
gets back.
So,
Anything else?
No,
$2,000.
Anybody happen to know, I don't know how long they've been out of service, these 2? For one of a better term, junkers, or
Pickup truck
they're
is
pretty
16
bad,
years-
right?
pickup
One of
truck is
them, I
16
think, is
years
sat
old.
out a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if that one deserves much of a bid. It's been around.
Yeah, one's a 2007 F-150,
Yeah, it's sat around for a while.
the other's a 2014 Chevy Tahoe.
The last time we went to municipal bid on that list of stuff, we didn't put minimum bids on anything.
Yeah.
when you put out the
Eric did
comfort
get
truck.
back, he said, we'll start at $1, we get what we get.
All right, so that's,
So no need for
tells you the
minimum bid.
value.
All right.
All right, so there you go.
Status quo standing up.
It's
Anything,
an as-is kind of thing anyway, right? Yeah, so.
Don't wait for
anything
it.
else from council? I know one of the meetings,
Yeah.
did you get this one?
Karen, do you wanna present this?
If you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, which one do you want to talk first? USDA or water tower?
Let's do water tower.
That's the easy one. So, our north water tank on Decatur Avenue is badly in need of a rehab. So it's not just painting the exterior, it needs a lot of interior work. Struts are rusted. So we asked all 3 of our engineers for a proposal, and RVE was far and away the least expensive for the proposal, some $40,000 less than T&M and CMA. And they also were the only engineering firm that provided us with what they believe the anticipated construction cost would be. So, in the engineering meeting today, the committee determined that, we should move forward with this project. It hasn't been done since 2007, and that we should award the project to RVE. We have money in the budget for this project. So that's the North Water Tank.
So we're authorizing the RVE portion, not or the whole thing?
So for tonight, it's just the
Initial.
design phase and the bidding assistance is to authorize that. So that's the $30,000. They can do those first two phases.
Okay.
Task 1 and Task 2, the design phase and bidding assistance.
Mhm. And then the others would come later.
So that's just the water tank. And then the second project, you ready to go on to the second project?
If you wish.
I know, that's up to you.
I mean, I can do it as well.
Yeah,
So you're just
yeah.
saying, I just want to make sure before you go to the next thing, unless it is part of the same. So the third, the construction, inspection, construction admin, you're saying is not what you're asking for tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay,
No,
that's what I wanted to clarify.
We'll design it, we'll put it out to bid. Once we get proposals back, then they
And
can
they
help
would-
us with the construction
Gotcha.
and the final.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
So we're adding resolution 194.
We're off.
Is that the request?
I believe we are, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
All right, the second part of it has to do with, continuing on with the water and sewer projects in town. We've done pretty much the east to the, east to the west, from 14th to
Island, I guess.
to Island, and beyond Island, we've done west of Central. Now, so we have this part left, which it's really saved the town a lot of water usage, and we had, so the Phase 3A was just finished. Part of that was replacing the sewer as well. Part, that was through the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank. The water main aspect of it was funded through a really good, a loan with really excellent terms through the federal government, USDA. It's 40-year terms, it's 1.5%, if that.
If that.
And it's just a low-cost loan for the town, a very necessary expense. So there was money left on the water part of it from Phase 3A, and we want to utilize those funds, or we lose them, and we have to then to continue with that work or to do anything more with the water system right now, apply for new loans at much higher rates and much worse terms. So we, in order to do that, we've decided to complete the water main on Ocean Avenue, from Island Avenue to Porter Avenue, as well as tie in to individual properties along the way. And it's just a necessary part of what we need to do. So that's where we're going to, what we're trying to do is authorize those funds be directed toward that purpose. And the USDA needs to know and answer what we want to do with these funds, or we're going to lose that loan by the middle of next month. So this is authorizing us to go ahead and meet with and talk to everyone, learn the bond council, the USDA, everybody else involved, and get this thing rolling. We don't want to lose this thing. So that's the purpose of this. It might seem confusing, but did I explain it properly?
Yes, I believe so. And just for the record, even though it's saying it's an add-on, I think our bond counsel, Bill Mayer, has been sending us information on this all along over the past month or two, and advising us that he's been in touch with the USDA, and they very much want us to do the project and give us the money. So
Yeah.
they want to get it done, we want to get it done, and we don't want to lose the opportunity to have this kind of funding at this kind of rate, so.
Terms, yeah.
Yeah, he'd indicated these kinds of loans are not available anymore. These rates are unheard of now.
Yeah. So again, we want to go forward with this, get it moving, and not screw it up, Dan,
All right.
It's a good estimate,
right?
cost-wise.
Yeah, and this estimate for this job just happens to equal what's left on the loan. Well,
It's magical. How does that?
well, it kind of
No,
is,
it's
actually.
close.
Sometimes it comes together.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Anything else from council? Work session? And that too is
It's
one
really
of the, resolution
It's really
195.
2.1 million that you tie in the survey.
If there's nothing further from council, I'll go into the audience then for any public comments on any work session items.
Put this on there too. Remember we were talking about the playground thing?
Yeah, we throw a curveball to Steve. Perhaps verbally, I would say, yeah.
Should we do that now, or?
Yeah, there's a memo, that was another one of the meetings held today.
Right. We had a busy afternoon, folks.
And we asked them and they said they'd get us that email within an hour, and apparently they did.
They did.
Less than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a change of scope as to what had previously been contemplated, and the reason being is the lighting and the configuration of the square footage, some of the paving, drainage.
This is the 14th Park Playground, correct?
Yes.
So they need an additional 11.5 change order basis scope of work.
Potentially.
Not to exceed.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah,
15, we agreed not to exceed 15.
11.5, they're really comfortable with 11.5, so,
You
I
can, you
mean,
can add that on.
Can we, yeah.
yeah.
so,
It may not really be that, but
Yeah,
we just want to, again, keep things moving, we want to
Yeah.
get this thing rolling.
so that, if that would be a verbal resolution, then on the work, on the main regular meeting, 196.
Yeah, do we need one also for the water main? 'Cause we didn't
That's
say.
already listed as 2023 195.
That's 195.
Mhm.
And the 194 is the water towers.
Water tower, okay.
So this is 196. Change.
Thank you, Don.
Anything else then from council? If not, we'll go into the audience and June.
June Kozneski. Getting back to the pavers, I think that besides the fact you're deciding whether they're pervious or impervious, I want to know, does everyone in town who are putting in pavers get a permit? Because there are a lot of paved parking and backyards, and looking at it, it looks like it's more, with the house, it's more than 60%. So I'm concerned that people are putting in these pavers and not getting the appropriate, okay from code or whoever is supposed to give them the permits. And once they're done, what do we do?
Well,
We need inspection.
The code enforcers are actively out there, we're looking.
Well, tell them to go to H Street, which is. And B and D. Yeah, and B and D. And there's a number of houses that you go by and the whole backyard is covered.
If you make a complaint, if you call, because the code office, when people come in weekends and nights and do these things under
Uh-huh.
cover of darkness, they don't know that.
Right.
And a lot of times, the only way they do know this is if somebody makes a complaint. Then they can search the property to see if there's a permit. And if there's not, they can go to the property and they can examine it, they can calculate the square footage of impervious coverage.
Mhm.
And if there's a problem, it's happened already this year, actually last year. They made the homeowner take pavers up.
Even if it's a year or two?
Yeah.
they say there's no statute of limitations, somebody told me that.
Yeah.
Multiple properties we had to remove.
They get a notice of violation from the code enforcement officer, and if they don't take care of it, they're issued a summons and then go to municipal court and they can get fined and get daily fines until it's removed.
Okay,
So,
second question.
Excuse me, just one last thing, Joan. Complaints are confidential.
That was my second.
It can be. Can be.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jude.
but this is a public meeting, you just stated that.
Yes. Read after me.
It's a big street, each street.
And I know that.
Go to the planning board.
Any other public comments on work session items?
You can go to the planning board. Say,
Hearing none? Yes.
Okay, so it's not a.
It's agenda items on the
What?
work
You can go there for
session.
anything.
So you want to build a skyscraper
Hearing
on
none,
H?
I'll
on
close
J Street?
the work session item and entertain a motion for brief adjournment and before we begin
Weren't you on that board for a while?
Time out, we're recording, everyone's talking, and we're not gonna have.
Council President DeMichael and a second by Councilmember Condos to adjourn the work session, take a brief moment, and then we'll begin the regular meeting. Anyone opposed?
No.
No, we will stand adjourned.